Have you ever thought Minecraft was just too easy? If you've been playing Minecraft for many years, you've probably been thinking the same thing. With people beating vanilla Minecraft in under 10 minutes and others doing these absurd challenges, it makes things like beating the Ender Dragon surface level difficulty. But I've made a mod pack that will completely change that. This is Road to Worthy. When you first log into this mod pack, the first thing you may see is some pretty nice terrain generation. But don't let that fool you, because this mod pack is also built to give you the most unforgiving experiences imaginable. The second thing you may notice is that there's a thirst and temperature bar, which is something you'll have to keep track of throughout your journey. And then the third thing you'll notice is that you can't cut down any trees with your fists, which means you'll have to use some of the new early game mechanics built into the pack. And when night falls, you better find a shelter because mobs are also much stronger and have thousands of different traits, and they only get harder the more you progress. Your main goals are to defeat the new final boss and craft the strongest set of armor, but only if you're worthy enough. And as the creator, I'm going to see how far I can progress in this pack. I have already died more than 50 times trying to make this video, so I'm going to be showing my best attempt throughout this video to show you how hard this pack really is. And I hope you enjoy. When I first spawned into the world, I did a bit of a look around, and it seemed like we were in some type of taiga biome, which isn't the best place to spawn, but still not the worst. And after that, I did the first thing any Minecraft player should do in this mod pack, and that is to get 2 sticks. It did take a bit of time, but I managed to get the amount I needed. The next thing I had to do was to gather 4 flint, which also took me a while, but I managed to get the amount I needed. And after that, I went to find a hard surface, so then I can turn these pieces of flint into flint shards. And then I just went ahead and picked up a bunch of flowers, but these things will be important for later. But for now, I want to find a place to dig up a shelter for the night, because if you're not prepared, then you're pretty much screwed. And screwed I kinda was, because there's a massive storm approaching me, which will eventually form into a tornado, and you don't really want to be caught in a tornado, especially on the first day. Meanwhile, I did spot some structures, but I wanted to pretend they weren't there, just to get an idea what it's like if there were no structures around you. And while hiding under a tree, I decided to use one of the flint shards and the sticks to make a knife. And then I used the dandelions I collected to make plant fiber. And then I used 3 of those to make plant string, and then used the other stick and the flint shard for a flint axe. And then finally, I was able to cut down some trees, but I would have to do it fast as the tornado was about to touch down. And touch down it did, so I had to quickly find a place to hide, which was this water ravine. The only blocks I really had were gravel and dirt, which are both gravity affected, so it wasn't really the best emergency shelter. But I did manage to prevent myself from getting sucked in, and a couple friends even came over. But after waiting a couple minutes, I managed to dig my way out and quickly escape the storm. And as you can see, it's already done quite a bit of damage. But even after that, I decided to run towards it just to get some extra wood. But luckily I wasn't in sucking range. And as you can also tell, wood has gravity too. But after that, I finally found a hill to call home. I would use my flint axe to turn logs into planks, and then use those planks to make a crafting table, and then use my leftover flint for a pickaxe. And with that done, I completed my first quest, which gave me an apple on reward. I guess you could say an apple a day keeps well, you can't really keep anything away in this mod pack. And since it was getting dark outside, I would need a light source. By making myself a fire starter and throwing 3 sticks and 1 log on the ground, I would be able to make myself a campfire. And after getting completely settled in, I would make myself a cutting board. Now I would need this because I could use it to give me extra materials, such as that wooden plank giving me 2 sticks instead of 1 stick. And since we had a long night ahead, I decided to do a bit of mining. I would have to hope for some coal though because it would give me extra experience. Now the reason why I need experience is because I could use them to level up my skills. And I'm gonna need level 2 mining to make a stone pickaxe. Now unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any coal. So the next option is I would have to test my luck and do a bit of mob grinding. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to not get any mining zombies or breaching creepers. And looking at this clip, I don't know why I decided to level up gathering instead of mining first. But hey, I guess I didn't want to waste my precious flint axe. But unfortunately, later on, there was a mining zombie and I had to quickly run away and barricade myself in this next room. Luckily, I didn't get hit once, and I managed to level up my mining and my magic. And after defeating most of the mobs, I finally came out and grabbed some of the loot, which included this really good stone sword, which I ended up using to kill the rest of the mobs. And just when I thought all the mobs were gone, I decided to break that block and a zombie just came at me out of nowhere. Even though I was bleeding, I decided to just go out anyway and get the rest of the loot, which would be pretty useful for later on. And just as I was breaking some blocks to hit a skeleton, I just found a vein of coal. If I would have mined just one block to the right, I would have probably been mining by now. But even though I was able to make some torches, it was pretty much just about daytime, so I was only able to mine for a little bit. But I did manage to find a bit of iron though. And yes, torches have been nerfed too. And since I was able to survive for one day, I managed to get a quest reward. I managed to get vegetable soup, which was able to give me enough saturation for the day. And since it was daytime out and there weren't that many mobs, I thought it would be safe to go outside, but the first few steps I took, a skeleton shot me and I was bleeding, so I had to immediately retreat to safety. Now since natural regen was disabled, I would need to get a bit of wood to make some bowls and some flowers to make a healing salve. And while trying to retreat to the nearby ruin, I would get hit by a drowned, but luckily not to the head. But the danger wasn't over yet. There were zombies surrounding the ruin, so I had to cover it up fast. Luckily, I didn't take any hits from them, so I was pretty much fine, at least afterwards. And then I was able to make myself a couple healing salves, which will be very important for the early game, especially if you're bad at not getting hit. But after healing up a little, I managed to get an extra pickaxe and an axe from the chest. And since my thirst was getting low, I would drink a lot of water bottles without somehow getting the thirsty buff. And after collecting a bit of wood, I would use the cutting board to not only get stripped logs, but also wood bark, to which I could use 3 of them to make 1 piece of paper. And you can also get 4 planks out of 1 stripped log. Now before heading out, I made myself just a little storage room, because I have a feeling that I'm going to be looting quite a bit while I'm out. And the first thing I found while exploring was an overweight apple block, which grow very rarely on trees and to which you can use on a cutting board to get 10 apples. After that, I managed to find myself a washed up ship, but most of the stuff in the chest I couldn't really use as of yet. And after that, the day was pretty much over. And while I was doing my nightly routine of mining, I would accidentally discover a cave. I know I was underprepared, but my curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to explore just a little bit. It had some pretty interesting features such as tough, deep slate, and azurite, which is from the create mod. And after that, I just mined all the coal ore, just so I could level up my skills quicker. By the time I finished mining, it was already day 3, and as you can see, I'm walking very slowly. That's because I'm dehydrated and my legs are injured. So my goals for today is to get a water canteen and a ceramic water bucket, just so I have better control of my thirst and temperature. For the water canteen, I need to get 4 pieces of leather, which I was easily able to get thanks to these group of cows that got sucked by the tornado and survived. Also, if you don't one-hit kill a passive mob, then that mob, as well as the entire group, will turn aggressive, like zombie pigmen. And for the ceramic water bucket, I would only need 1 block of clay plus a clay tool. And as I was breaking grass for fun, I would accidentally hit a donkey and would destroy my feet. The only way to unaggro the mobs is to die, so I just immediately ran back into my base. And after that, I guess I was back to my nightly mining routine. I would end up mining on a certain Y level, because the lower you mine, the longer it takes for the blocks to break. And a few minutes later, I would just remember to make my ceramic water bucket. So I crafted the clay tool, and right-clicked it with a clay block. And while I was smelting the ceramic bucket, there would be another mining zombie. Luckily, I was able to turn it into a mob farm and get some pretty good loot. But I would also take a big hit from a breaching creeper, which I wasn't able to show because my OBS crashed just before that. Thankfully, I noticed within about a minute or so there wasn't too much footage gone. But I can show you the amount of loot I got. I was able to get some pretty good armor for this stage, and some apotheothic gems for later. Speaking of apotheosis, I was going to try and defeat this apotheothic boss, but instead of just coming near me, they just camped around the hill. So I decided to test my luck and make a run for it. He would nearly hit me a couple times, but I managed to run away from him successfully. And after that, he would just camp under a tree for some reason. I don't know why, probably because he doesn't want to burn. And while I was just casually cleaning up this tree area, a creeper went behind me and exploded. But luckily it wasn't fatal and I had some healing salves with me. And while I went home to craft a sleeping bag, I noticed that there was a witch nearby. I would go and try and kill it, but witches can be pretty nasty in this mod pack, so I decided to just retreat. And after that, I would just do my nightly routine, except I wanted to explore this cave that the mining zombie dug out of. But about a few seconds later, I decided to change my mind and just sleep out the night. Now, if any of you guys actually notice, I'm actually speeding up this footage. And that's because sleeping is only 10 times faster instead of 100 times faster. And will also consume a bunch of your hunger and increase the difficulty more than just waiting out the night. So yeah, if you're planning to sleep in this mod pack, just do it wisely. And after sleeping, a yellow text appeared saying you feel well rested, but you also feel a strange feeling. And that's because the effects have kicked in. But fortunately, there were no bad mobs outside, and I was able to make myself a little tree farm, just so I could get more wood without going too far out. I also decided to check the ruin out near my base, and I managed to loot one chest. I did look into it a bit more, and there wasn't really any bad mobs inside it. But I wanted to explore the whole thing a bit later. Nothing much else really happened on day 4, I just made some minor improvements to my base. And while doing my usual mining routine, I came across a special creeper by the name of Creeper Cena. Luckily he didn't explode and he dropped a turtle helmet. And just when I was about to finish mining, there was another Creeper Cena, but this time he would come back again and explode my base, but luckily he didn't do too much damage. And I was even able to turn it into a tiny mob farm. And that creeper must have had Silk Touch or something because he broke and dropped a lot of grass blocks. As I was about to really start my day off, a wandering trader appeared and would actually sell some better items than in vanilla Minecraft. One of those items being a recall potion, which sounds pretty useful, but I don't really have enough emeralds for it. There were also some affixed iron tools, but I couldn't really use them yet either. However, I did end up buying the saddle, which was the only good thing I can afford. And after that, I wanted to finish looting this ruin that was near my base. There were some okay loot in the chest, but I probably spent more time mining all the bookshelves. There was also a lectern with a book in it, so I decided to give it a quick read. According to this book, the world was a lot different back in the day, until the evil forces took over and pretty much destroyed everything. And I'm pretty much the only player left in this world. And after looting the ruin, I would deposit all the loot into my base. And as I was doing that, I noticed these 2 Shibas near my house. So I decided to tame them to be my base bodyguards. Now the reason why they're my base bodyguards is because I'm going to be staying somewhere else for the night. Yep, if you see that castle structure, I'm gonna be staying there for the night. It may not look like much, but there's actually a massive dungeon underneath. So instead of doing my usual mining routine, I'm gonna be exploring that dungeon. But probably only the first layer because each layer gets more dangerous. The first thing I did when entering this dungeon is I immediately went into this bedroom type area. And it had some better loot than the ruins, such as spare tools, armor, and even some permanent torches, which I've probably fixed in the release version. But hey, I won't need to use them until I reach Building 4. I would also set my spawn point here since it's pretty easy to die here. But despite that, I would keep on looting more of the dungeon, until my greed got the best of me. Now even though I just got one hit by a zombie out of nowhere, I decided not to end the run. However, you can see I am missing half a heart. That is because every time I die, my max health will decrease. Which means if I die 19 more times, then the run will pretty much be over. But anyways, I was able to get my stuff back pretty easily because I set my spawn point. And if I didn't, then the run would probably be over now. And despite the danger of this dungeon, I decided to keep exploring. And I even managed to come across the secret room, which contained a lot of emeralds, lapis, and cobwebs, which can be useful for later on. There was also an enchantment table, but I couldn't really use it yet. And while I was doing a bit more mob grinding, my greed got the best of me again, and I just barely made it out alive. And this was not the first time because I almost got blown up by a creeper when I was just about to leave. And even if I wanted to leave this place, I would have to run through a bunch of witches. So I would either have to make a decision of living in this dungeon for the rest of the run, or just go YOLO and run back to my old base. And I chose the second option. And even though I would have to run through some dangerous obstacles, at least the old base is a safe base. And just as I ran back to my base, I realized that I had Mining Fatigue 3, so I wouldn't be able to break through these dirt walls as easily. The only way I could get rid of my mining fatigue is to make some healing salves. So with the flint I gathered from the chests, I bashed them on a hard surface to make flint shards, and then made a flint axe just to turn the logs into planks, so then I can make bowls. And luckily, I knew one structure that had a crafting table, and that was the ruin that I almost died in. So I quickly made the bowls that I needed and made the healing salves with it. And just like that, the run was saved once again. And by the time the run was saved, the day was over. So I decided to just go back to my nightly mining routine. And just when I was about to go back down, there was a zombie in the way, and I tried to kill him, but the bodyguard took my sword, so I had to pick him up, put him back down, and then grab the sword from him. Pretty inconvenient on the dog's part, but at least I didn't die. After that, I went to explore a cave that a mining zombie dug for me, and at first, I found a lobber zombie with no AI. But then after I killed it, a lot of smart mobs came up on me, and a fishing zombie threw me into an exploding creeper Cena. And then I immediately turned that tunnel, or whatever you called it, back into a mob farm. And after doing a bit more mob grinding, I got a really nice chest plate to finish off my armor set. And I was also able to level up my gathering to 8 so then I can use iron axes. And when I went back to do more strip mining, you wouldn't believe what I found. I managed to come across some nether bricks. Now if you remember that structure that I died in, this is actually the final floor of the dungeon. And once I found that out, it just blew my mind. However, if I were to explore this, I would have to be extra careful, since mobs are a lot stronger than on the first floor. Now despite the extreme danger in this dungeon, I decided to just loot a few chests. And even if you try to loot chests, a cursed armor will spawn, which are pretty much like a mimic, and will chase after you. And once you hear the mining zombies, you know it's time to leave. Not gonna let my greed get the best of me this time. And as soon as I went outside, it was already well into the day. And it was probably better to go out later because there was another tornado. And this was also the same day where I lost track of how many days I've survived. Or I guess spent in this case. Even though there wasn't as much time as yesterday, I still wanted to work myself towards a backpack, which I'll need 6 rabbit hide. But luckily, it's a lot easier to find rabbits in this pack. Unfortunately though, I was only able to kill 1. At least I got a hyper rabbit's foot though. And just a few blinks later, the day was over. I decided to loot another dungeon chest and maybe farm a few mobs, but that would turn out to be my biggest mistake ever in this run. It may not look like these zombies are able to kill me, but remember, mobs can have thousands of traits, so stuff like this can happen. And just like that, the run was over. Now the reason why I ended the run is because I wasn't able to set my spawn point in my, like, my first base. So it would be near impossible to get my stuff back. So I decided to end the run. And if I continued this run, this video would be probably like I wouldn't know how long this video would be. But if you, the viewer, want to try out this mod pack, the link is in the description. This mod pack is dedicated to anyone who thinks they're a Minecraft god. Someone who thinks they are worthy enough and are up for the challenge. And I would love to see it. Hell, I'll even keep playing this mod pack. And if you want to see me play it again, I'll be streaming tomorrow after this video releases. This was probably my biggest project yet. I started this all the way back in January, and it's been doing really well since. And I'm really looking forward to you guys playing this mod pack. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I shall see you guys in the next video.